This episode of the Resilient Retail Game Plan is brought to you by Faire, the online wholesale platform built for independent retailers. If you're ready to find products your customers will actually love, Faire makes it simple. You can browse thousands of brilliant brands, discover new favourites, and take advantage of free 60-day payment terms, so you can try something new without the cash flow stress. Right now, you'll get 50% off and free shipping on your first order with the code GAMEPLAN25. That's GAMEPLAN25, valid until 31st of December 2025. Go to Faire, that's FAIRE.com to sign up. Thanks to Faire for helping independent shops stay resilient, one order at a time. Today we're talking about one of the most important tools in your retail toolkit, a well-run stock clearance sale. Not a panic sale, not a blanket discount, but a strategic cash-releasing moment that helps you start the year lighter and more profitable. I'll walk you through exactly what to clear, how deep to discount, and how to make your clearance event work for you rather than against your margins. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I'm Catherine Erdly, and in the next few minutes, you're about to get powerful real-world retail strategies from insights shared both from my guests and myself, backed up by my 25 years in the retail industry. Keep listening to learn how to grow a thriving, profitable product business. Let's jump in with this latest episode. Now, if you want more information about stock management in your business, I've been talking about stock a lot in recent episodes. So, for example, you might want to take a look at episode 278, which is about how much money is trapped in your stockroom. What they found was once they'd listed it all out, they had over £7,000 worth of stock in those plastic totes that had never even seen the light of day. So it hadn't even been out on the shop floor. Or 277, where we talk a little bit more about slow sellers and overstocks. Try a small discount before Christmas to capture that Christmas purchasing and then avoid those really super deep discounts afterwards. So if you've got slow sellers, think about what you could do. If you're not into discounting, if you don't do offers at this time of year, then perhaps could you focus the attention on them more, try and push them more, try and make them more of a feature. But in today's episode, I wanted to focus in on your stereotypical, as it were, January clearance sale. So if you're listening to this episode on the day of release, it is Thursday, the 18th of December, which means that we are 1 week out from Christmas, and you might be starting to think, turning your attention to what you want to do post-Christmas. Now, typically, a lot of people would have a Boxing Day sale, or for a lot of small business owners, they want to give themselves a little bit of a breathing space and start it in January. But either way, you may well be thinking about your clearance sale. And what I want to do in today's episode is run through how to make it as effective as possible. Because a lot of people do get nervous about clearance sales. They're worried about them being brand damaging. But the good news is I'm here to tell you that this is the time of year to do clearance activity because the customer is used to seeing it from retailers. Every single retailer in the land is going to be having some kind of clearance event in January. If you walk into a shopping centre in January, you are going to see a lot of red sale signs. So this is the time of year that you can really be a little bit ruthless, if you like, and have a really good clear out. Clearance is not failure. It's a strategic tale for managing slow stock in your business and improving profitability. I also like to think of it as a pressure release valve. I am very much hoping none of you ever buy stock for your business that you don't think is going to sell, but we all know that there are things that you thought were going to sell that just don't. And therefore, having a stock clearance sale is your opportunity to go through those things that didn't sell and to discount them to release that cash back into your business so that you've got more money to spend on new, fresh, interesting stock, which is going to entice and delight your customer in 2026. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about when to run a clearance sale, what goes into it, how deep to discount, and what to do if the stock still doesn't shift. Why stock clearance matters? Well, as I've touched on, it is all about shifting that slow-moving stock that ties up cash and it makes the business harder to run. In retail, we call the unproductive stock, that is the 80% of your stock which is generating just 20% of your sales, or the inverse of the 80-20 rule where 80% of your sales is coming from 20% of your stock. We call that the tail. And in my book, Tame Your Tiger, I talk about the bigger the tail, the bigger the tiger. In other words, the more stock that you have tied up in that unproductive tail, the more likely your business is going to be cash hungry and difficult to manage. So you need to make sure that you address that tail by running a stock clearance event. Clearance is the equivalent of cleaning out your garage. You won't get what you paid for it, but you'll get your space and cash back. As I mentioned in previous episodes, what people really fail to realize with overstock is that it takes up physical space, it takes up mental space. It is something that it's a lot of time. You have to shuffle it around or work around it. And it also leaves a hole in your bank account where fresh cash could be sitting there waiting for you to make your purchases in 2026. And one of the reasons that people don't pay themselves in their business, people don't pay themselves enough in their product business, one of the big reasons is that they have too much stock. And so getting on top of that and clearing it through is a really crucial part of running a profitable business. Remember, your aim during this time is not to maximize your margin per item, it's to liquidate stock efficiently and effectively reset your business. So as I mentioned previously, we are coming up to the perfect time to run a clearance sale. A big retailer will typically run 4 sales a year, 2 large end of season sales in January and in the summer, and then a mid-season sale roughly around March and then September or October. However, I think for most small businesses, they don't necessarily need those mid-season sales. I think 2 stock clearance sales a year would be plenty. And for some people, they actually will just really focus on one. And if you're going to focus on one, make it the January sale. Because as I said, that is so intrinsically built into the customer's mind that this is the time for sale, that it is not going to feel brand damaging at all for your customers. It is going to be something that they just see, oh, yeah, I get it. It's this time of year. It's January. Let's go for it. This is not the same as being on a discount treadmill. A lot of people are fearful of having discounts because they feel that the customer is going to then want to just buy from them at discount. But again, that's why this January timeframe is so powerful. Everybody knows that there's a stock clear out in January. They don't then expect to be able to buy things on discount the year round. You can have other events as you go throughout the year. Even if you only have one stock clearance event, you can have other targeted clear as you go discounts. So that would be really super specific on one particular product area. Maybe you're really heavy on your home fragrance, for example, or maybe you're really heavy on your summer items if you're a fashion brand, but you would be able to take some action to clear those down throughout the year. But in terms of the real stock clearance, what we call red sale, that is something that you would keep for, as I said, once or twice a year. So what do you actually put into your sale? Well, I like to think of there being different buckets of stock. So you've got your prime stock. This is the products that make up your 80% of sales, those ones you do not want to touch. What you're looking for are either things that have really slowed off. For example, they are last sizes in a size run, or maybe they belong to a product range that you no longer carry much of. They make great fodder for sale because they're actually effectively prime stock. It's just they're not really selling that much because you maybe have de-emphasized that product range or that product area within your business. So it should sell once you've taken a bit of money off it and you've put it in front of your customer in a sale. The other thing that you may want to include is things like shop soiled or damaged items or seconds. Sometimes people will run a separate samples and seconds sale. That can sometimes work well as a second big discount sale of the year. So for example, you might do your stock clearance in January and samples and seconds in the summer. That could be another option. But if you are going to include damaged or second products in your sale, make sure that it's really, really clearly marked as to what exactly it is and what the faults or the flaws are, so that people aren't disappointed if they think it's just slow-moving stock that's been discounted, that they understand there's another reason behind it. And then the third and probably the biggest category is the slow-moving stock. These are things that you just aren't selling as well as you thought. They are also things that maybe you just bought more of than you needed. So it wasn't necessarily that they're bad, it's just that you've got too much left of them. Effectively, what you want to think about with this stock clearance sale, I want you to really think about the things that you've effectively come to the end of the line with. In other words, if you think you're going to be restocking something later on, don't put it into the stock clearance sale. The stock clearance sale is the exit chute for the business. So you're putting things into it that you are done with. that if you don't sell it at that price, you're going to keep reducing it until you do sell it. There's no concept that you're then going to put it back up to full price, for example. So I would say that once something goes into the sale, it's on its way out and you will do whatever it takes to clear it down. So don't, as I said, put things in that you think, well, actually, I might sell a bit more of that later on. If it's just slow because it's not the right season for it, for example, if you've got Halloween product, don't try and mark that down in your Christmas sale. That's going to be really tricky for you to sell. You're better off almost keeping that and then bringing it back out again or relisting it at Halloween. You want to be looking at the things that have had a good run. They've had, a couple of months to sell, but they're just not selling. And now they're clogging up your stockroom. And these are the things that you want to really hit and put into your markdown. If something's just a bit slow, you might get away with just not reordering it rather than discounting it. You're looking for the things that are either you're completely done with or they're really, really slow and you don't think there's any way you're going to sell them except if you take discount action against them. This is the point at which you absolutely 100% do not want to get caught up in a personal vendetta against yourself thinking, oh, why did I buy it? Why did I make that mistake? Do not worry about it. It is not anything to do with you. It's the fact that customers are fickle, fashions are fickle, the zeitgeist is fickle, people change. You could have bought something that even did really well last year and it's not working so well this year. Don't think about that. Don't get hung up on the mindset around it. Just look at discounting it. How deep do you discount? I believe that you want to start your clearance sale reasonably deep. If you've got loads of something, you probably want to start at 50% off. If you've just got a few left of something and you think it's actually pretty good stock, but it's broken, end of line, end of a range that you don't stock anymore, you could maybe start at 30%. So you're not trying to rescue the margin here, you are trying to release the cash. We used to have a saying in big retailers that I worked in when we were looking at sale, everything has its price. In other words, if it wasn't selling, we would take it to the next discount level. But we would always start off with what we thought was reasonable. We didn't go in at the maximum discount. If you want, you could start everything at 30% off. The key with the sale is then to keep reviewing it and seeing, do you need to take further markdowns? The key thing really is don't try tickling things at 10% off, 15% off. That's not really sale price. That's more like a limited time discount. I would say 30 to 50% is a good place to start. And then one of the steps that people really miss out on sales planning is that they kind of are a bit apologetic about it. They're like, oh yeah, I've got this sale, and they don't shout about it. Whereas you need to plan your sale like it's a product launch. You need to be making sure that you're going through and you're building up the messaging, you're reminding people, your homepage reflects the sale, your social media campaign reflects the sale, and you've got really clear signposting in store or online, depending on your business model, to say that we are currently on sale. Think about the windows being blocked out in big stores. They literally get these floor-to-ceiling sale banners and they cover the whole window with them because they are trying to get your attention. They're trying to say, hey, we're on sale. Come in, take a look at the bargains. That's the kind of thing that you want to think about. And again, if you can switch your mindset and see that this is a natural release of cash into the business. This is not something that you do because you failed or because things didn't go well. This is something that you do to make your life easier. Hopefully that will help you really shout about it. And inside the Retail Sales Game Plan course that we've been running, we had a whole session all about promotions and sales, and we had a sale planner to help you really nail your messaging, because I really believe that this is one of the reasons that people don't have as successful sales as they would like, is because they put a few things on sale. They usually don't discount it deep enough. They might put a few things on 20% off and then they don't tell anyone about it. Whereas what you really want to be doing is starting off with a decent discount and then really shouting about it. So have a think about, in your business, what's the equivalent of a giant sale poster? If you've got a window, maybe you can do that. If you're an online business, what's the equivalent? Can you black out or block out your social media, as it were, so that all of the posts are talking about the sale so people could really get the message that you're on sale? Because remember, this isn't forever. This is a short space of time. You just got to shout about it as loud as you can because you really want people coming in and checking out those bargains. Fun fact, actually, a lot of people find when they turn on a clearance sale, they actually see that their full price sales go up as well, which they often are not expecting. And that's because people are coming, they're having a look at what's in the sale, and then they're going, oh, this is a really nice brand. I haven't bought from them for a while, or I'd forgotten how nice everything is here, and then picking out some other pieces as well. So we always used to see this in big retailers. We would see that when we do clearance sales, we would actually also push full price sales. So there's definitely something for you to think about. So what if it still doesn't shift? This is a question I get asked a lot about sale. And I think a lot of the reason, as I said, people don't see a good shift in their sale is because they don't shout about it enough. They don't make enough of a deal about it, and they don't discount deep enough. If you're in a position where you've launched the sale and it's still not shifting, then I would suggest that you go back and you look at your discounts. If everything's at 30, could you take some of that stuff to 50? If everything's at 50, do you start moving some things to 60 or 70? How can you keep shouting about it? Again, big retailers, they run sales over quite a long period of time. So it might be 8 or 9 weeks of sale. And then what we would do is every Monday we would go through and we would review the sale lines, and we would look and decide if we were going to take further action on things. Right? Do we want to take a further markdown? What do we want to do? What should that price be? What's the cost to the business? And so on and so forth. So it was never something that was one and done. We would never just launch it and then, let it just sit there. We would actively manage that sale week on week, and we would be reacting to the sales that we were getting. So the same thing for you too. If you launch it and nothing happens, ask yourself, did I shout about it enough? If you've shouted about it a whole bunch of times and you really feel like nothing's happening, or you're getting lots of visitors but your conversion rate's not good, think about, do you take your discounts deeper? That's a whole new round of messaging you can have. New lines added, further discounts, or now up to 60% off, or now everything from £10, whatever it might be. Think about moving that sale on. Think about looking at what's selling and letting that sell through at that price. But then if it's not moving, do you take it further, discount it further? As I said, we used to always say everything has its price. So what price do your products need to be at? You can also do extra messaging like VIP customers get an extra 10% off for the last 48 hours only. There's lots of different ways that you can lean into the sale and keep it interesting and different as you move through. Maybe you have a 3-week sale and you have different messaging each week. Maybe you offer 3 for 2 on your sale items for the last 48 hours only. Who knows? But just keep layering on that messaging, keep moving the discounts forward. And don't be afraid to be aggressive with your discounting, because again, we're talking about this is the exit shoot. Once it's in the sale, that's it. It's on its way out. So what do you need to do to give it that push? And then at the end of it, you should have a decent amount of cash and more space and more headspace in your business as well. If you get to the point where you really have done everything you can and you're still sitting on a lot of stock, it may be worth thinking about donating to charity. Talk to your accountant, find out if there's actually going to be a tax benefit to writing some stock off and donating it. That can be another way of getting some older stock out of your way and helping the business financially in some ways. A lot of big retailers, they also run clearance channels. So they will run eBay shops or Depop shops. You might not even know looking at it that it belongs to that particular retailer. They're busy selling off all of the stuff that they couldn't quite clear out at rock bottom prices. But because it's a completely separate, different sale channel, it's not impacting their main channel. So that is something else that you could consider if you've got a lot of stock. Sometimes the answer is, can you go to an event? Can you basically have like a clearance event in person? Sometimes you can shift more that way. Sometimes there are even specific sale and outlet events that you can look for tables at to just sell things off at a discounted price. But what you kind of want to do is you want to really push the sale as hard as you can for a short period of time, and then you want to de-emphasize it. You don't want to be talking about sale for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. You want to push it hard and then hopefully sell through as much as you can, and then be able to put the remainder into, say, an outlet section on your website or something like that. The key thing here is to reframe in your mind that clearance is not wasteful. It's responsible stewardship of your stock. It's an important way to release cash that is trapped and to get it back into your business. You're not encouraging overconsumption. I know that's one of those things that people are concerned about. And I have to say, if you say to me, I don't ever discount, I don't believe in discounting, that is completely fine. I will completely 100% back you on that. But in that case, you have to be very, very cautious about how you buy to avoid having these pockets of trapped cash. And there are very few businesses, even extremely ethically run businesses, that are able to get away without any kind of clearance event. Otherwise, they just end up with stuff being stuck. If you feel like you're not really in a position to do a big January clear out, then you can think about doing clear outs throughout the year. But it's not as beneficial to have a big clear out, say in March, as it is in January, because again, in the customer's mindset, that's slightly different. In January, they totally will get it. They understand it's part of the January sales. At another point in the year, it may feel a little bit more distressed. So I would think carefully about the timing of it. And that's also, again, people have different peak seasons. It might work for you to have your sale at a different point in the year. In terms of next steps then that you can take this week, as I said, we are running quickly towards the Christmas time period and therefore the post-Christmas sales. So some practical steps you can take this week are have a look at your 80-20, so your top 80% of sales coming from 20% of your stock and then vice versa. This is very easily done in Shopify. If you're a Shopify user, you can look at your ABC report. You do have to add in the product title as an additional variable. Otherwise, you can't actually see what's in your ABC, but that is something that you can easily do. If you look at that, then you can quickly identify what you're sitting on a lot of stock of. Make sure you're pulling together your sale list. So I would identify the slowest moving stock with the highest cash value against it as the items that you definitely want to look at clearing. Make sure you're choosing your discount strategy. You're going to go straight in at 50% off everything. You're going to start at 30% and then review it. Make sure you're putting your dates in the diary. Make sure you're getting all your marketing messaging work ready to go. And make sure that you put time into review your sale as you're going through it so that if it's not shifting, you've got time to actually take action and take it deeper. So good luck with planning your sale. I can't wait to hear how it goes for you. You can always drop me a message on Instagram at Resilient Retail Club and let me know if you've got any questions about it, if you really pushed your sale this year and the difference that it made. And I will look forward to next week where we will be releasing an episode on Christmas Day where we're going to be talking all about how to recap the season. Have a great week and see you then.